Hopefully you should be able to hear me now. Say hello in the chat. Let me know if you are able to hear me okay. Share where you are watching from this morning. I know we have folks joining from all over the world. About 650 of you RSVP today. So I'm so excited to have you joining. Today, I am going to be sharing with you how to promote yourself in the workplace, even if, and especially when, you are an introvert. Because I have seen in my work time and time again over the past 12 years now that being someone who is on the quieter side, who is naturally more reserved, who thinks before they speak, these things don't have to hold you back. In fact, it actually means you have assets that can help you create a more powerful presence. And we'll get into that in just a minute. So say hello in the chat. Let me know where you are watching from. As we go along, please share what is resonating you. Type in your takeaways, your comments, your experiences. If you hear something that's especially notable or valuable, help your neighbors out. Share that in the chat as well. Let's see, I have a little bit of a lag on my end, so I just want to make sure we are live across all the platforms. Let me check here because I can't see the comments coming in. Very weird. Okay, let's see. All right, there we go. Here they come. Amelia, hello in Tampa, Florida. Let's see. Okay, India, hello. Megan in Milwaukee, Pakistan, great to see you here. Excellent. Okay, now my comments are coming in. Hello from Boston. All right, excellent. Now, there may be many of you here who are newer to my work or my world, so I want to introduce myself first. I am Melody Wilding. I am the author of a book called Trust Yourself, Stop Overthinking, and Channel Your Emotions for Success at Work. I'm an executive coach to sensitive strivers, which is a term I have coined that refers to professionals who are highly sensitive, meaning they think and feel everything more deeply, but who are also high achieving. So my clients are leaders, professionals at some of the world's top companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and many more. And here's the thing, they look successful on the outside, but they struggle internally with things like self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and taking things more personally. If that sounds at all familiar to you or you resonate with that, give me a +1 in the chat. Okay, hello Nathan in Myanmar, Salma in Lebanon, hello from Portugal, Amber in Florida, great to have you here. Say hello as you're coming on, let me know where you are watching from today. Now, if any of that sounded familiar, you are in exactly the right place today. And I'm also very excited to share that today, so later on today, Monday, January 8th, 3 p.m. Eastern, I'm hosting a totally free training called Stand Out Self-Promotion. Transform your impact, value, and visibility at work. There is a QR code in the corner of the screen here. You can take out your phone, go to your camera app, hover it over that QR code, and it will take you directly to the page to register for that training later today. And if you can't make it live, don't worry, the replay will be sent to you afterwards. And this is perfect if you are someone who is a corporate or traditionally employed professional who really wants to understand what workplace visibility actually is, why it's important, and most importantly, how you can maximize it. I'm going to be sharing with you today tools and concrete strategies you can use to highlight your accomplishments without sounding like a jerk, to communicate your value with authenticity and sincerity. And again, it is completely free. That event is happening today. So this is your last chance to sign up. That QR code is here on the screen. You can also head to the URL that's here on the banner, melodywilding.com/stand-out. Okay. Hello, Ben in the UK. India, Amber said, so excited about that training. Can't wait. It's a goal of mine for self development this year and couldn't come at a better time. Amazing. And I hope that's true of this live too. Many of you messaged me and have posted about how self promotion, advancement, putting yourself out there is on your list of resolutions for 2024. So it's a perfect time to be having this conversation, which is all about self promotion for introverts. Now, many of you are here because you've probably followed my work on sensitive strivers. And as I mentioned, if you're just joining, that means you are both highly sensitive and you are high achieving. You are driven. You put a lot of pressure on yourself to succeed. And if you follow me for a while, you may have also heard me mention my program, Resilient, which is our signature 3-month group coaching program that helps sensitive strivers manage their thoughts, emotions, and energy at work more effectively. Also, that they can regain their confidence, quit people pleasing, overcome imposter syndrome, and more. And in Resilient, we teach that there are actually different aspects to energy. Okay, let's see. Angela, great to have you here from Ontario. Great. And so in Resilient, we teach that there are actually different aspects to energy. One of those aspects of your energy is your people energy. So I want to ask you, type in the comments here. Do you get excited by the thought of teamwork, collaborating with other people, brainstorming, or do you prefer more solo work time? Would you rather attend a company get together or head home for a good evening with a book? Your answers to these types of questions can tell you a lot about your people energy tendencies or what type of social interactions give you energy versus take it away. Now, understanding your people energy as a sensitive striver comes down in large part to knowing whether or not you lean towards being an introvert or an extrovert. You're probably already very familiar with these terms, but I want to review quickly what they mean. So if you relate to being an introvert, that means you tend to focus inwardly. Introverts tend to prefer small, intimate groups, but I want to be very clear about this, that being an introvert doesn't mean you are shy. You may be perfectly confident and comfortable socially, but, and this is the crucial point, you prefer to recharge alone. How you get your energy is being alone and sort of in your own internal world. That's where you get your energy from. Now, extroverts, on the other hand, focus outwardly into the world. They tend to seek out people. They're more likely to initiate, to engage in social interactions. Introverts get their energy from being around people. And you may or may not be surprised to know that about 70% of sensitive strivers are also introverts. So there's a huge overlap between being someone who is highly sensitive and being someone who is introverted. Now, these sensitive strivers, the 70% of you who relate to being a sensitive striver who is also an introvert, you probably have a strong preference for the following. Energy recharge. Introverted sensitive strivers recharge by spending time alone or in quiet, low stimulation environments. They tend to find prolonged social interaction draining, even if they are deeply engaged and even if they are enjoying themselves. Number 2, social interaction. They prefer deep, meaningful one-on-one conversations or small group interactions over very, very large groups. So their sensitivity makes them acutely aware of social nuances, the vibe, the energy of the group. But their introversion leads them to seek out solitude so they can process those interactions. Number 3, work environment preferences. They prefer to work in quiet, more solitary settings where they can concentrate deeply without external interruptions. So, classic example, open office environments or highly collaborative settings can be a Big challenge for introverted sensitive strivers. And 4 is an approach to challenges. So, introverted sensitive strivers might internalize their experiences more intensely. They may spend a lot more time reflecting on feedback or interactions, turning it over in their head, which can unfortunately, without the right tools, lead to overthinking or self criticism. And then, last but not least, is number 5, visibility and self promotion. They might struggle with self promotion and asserting themselves, particularly in group settings. Their sensitivity, or rather your sensitivity, might make you keenly aware of how you're being perceived, while your introversion makes you less inclined to seek out the spotlight in the first place. And remember, if this is something you struggle with, then you really want to make sure you are joining us today for that free Stand Out self-promotion training. I see many of you have already clicked on that QR code to join us. So as I mentioned earlier, the QR code is in the corner of the screen. All you need to do is take out your phone, open your camera app, hover it over that QR code, and you'll be brought to a link to register for that completely free webinar. It is happening today at 3 p.m. So this is your last chance to register, and I'll be going much, much deeper on strategies for self-promotion. Now, when it comes to self-promotion, introverted sensitive strivers have a preference for subtlety over showmanship. Who relates to that? Give me a +1 if you relate to having a preference for subtlety over showmanship. You're probably naturally inclined to be more modest, to be more discreet, which unfortunately in today's work world might lead to you being overlooked, even if you're doing great work. Who has ever been there? You don't want to seem self-involved or as if you're aggrandizing, but other people may pass you by. Many introverted sensitive strivers are also uncomfortable being the center of attention. I can relate to this. My wedding was a very difficult day, knowing that I would be the center of attention along with my husband, but knowing that for a large part of it as a bride, you are a major center of attention for everyone for an entire day. So when this comes to self-promotion, it may mean that you prefer to be observed, or rather, let me switch that around. You often prefer to observe others rather than be observed yourself, and you prefer to listen rather than speak. And this could be for many reasons. Maybe because you feel self-conscious, or you have a fear of being judged, or you simply have a preference for more privacy. And again, more of that internal orientation. When self-promotion requires standing out or drawing attention to yourself, that can trigger anxiety or avoidance, causing you to shy away from opportunities to showcase your achievements. And again, all of that can become this self-reinforcing cycle where you end up overlooked. When you are someone who is deeply reflective, introspective, you may also analyze interactions, how others perceive you. And that sort of negative internal dialogue can cause you to downplay what you're accomplishing or avoid all of this self-promotion stuff altogether. And also, because you like to recharge in solitude, you have that higher need for downtime. Social interactions, large groups, or with people that you don't know can be very draining. So networking events, conferences, large meetings like all hands, for example, that are usually conducive for self-promotion can be overwhelming. That need to be socially on for an extended period of time can be tough for us. And I'm saying us because I am a introverted, sensitive striver as well. I get it. You're there trying to connect, trying to put your best foot forward, but instead you find yourself just counting down the minutes, looking at your watch till you can go recharge in peace in your hotel room. And it's tough because these events are supposed to help you get ahead, but they end up feeling more like a marathon that you didn't prepare for. And so this is one big reason why introverted sensitive strivers generally value quality over quantity when it comes to their interactions and their relationships that they have at work. As I mentioned before, We tend to thrive on deep, meaningful conversations where we can connect on a more substantial level rather than just having surface level small talk. But self-promotion, especially in the professional setting, can feel like it requires you to have that just empty banter or to have a network of superficial connections, which can feel inauthentic and it can just be a total turnoff. Again, you don't do it all together. So you have probably felt like, let me guess, actually, you can tell me in the chat. You have probably felt like your natural inclination is a bit of a double-edged sword, particularly when it comes to promoting yourself. You're all about subtlety and staying out of the spotlight, but then you see others shouting their wins from the rooftops, getting ahead when you're not. And it's frustrating. But here's the thing, and someone help me out by typing this in the chat. The very traits you might think are holding you back can actually be your secret weapon in standing out. I want to say that again because it's so important. The very traits you might think are holding you back can actually be your secret weapon in standing out. In a world that is increasingly loud, crowded, noisy, and let's be honest here, sometimes very superficial, your approach can be a breath of fresh air. People are starting to appreciate authenticity. It was actually, I believe it was the word of the year for 2023, authenticity. So there's an appreciation for this realness more and more. And you are not about making noise for the sake of it. When you speak up, it's because you have something meaningful or of value that you want to say. And that's unusual in today's world. People remember the ones who speak less but say more. Think about that in your own life. You remember the people who speak less but say more. And your tendency to observe and listen, that's another superpower. In a meeting, while others are busy talking, you're picking up on nuances. You're recognizing the things that are going unsaid. And that makes you incredibly valuable. Gives you an edge because you see things that other people miss. And when you do speak up, your words carry weight because they're insightful, they're thoughtful and considered. And in a world where everyone is trying to one up each other, being that thoughtful voice can make you stand out in a big way. Let me know what's resonating with you in the comments so far. Let me check in here. Amelia, great to have you here. Yes, Joe was saying, always feel like those who shout are more visible or are the favorites, despite their underlying capability being weaker. Yeah. And I hope, Joe, what I'm sharing here is starting to change some of your thinking about how you actually do have qualities that you can lean into as a competitive edge that fill the gaps that those other people are leaving. So yes, your introspection can lead to overthinking. Yes, I don't want to deny that. But it also means you're more self-aware. You're conscientious. You're not just saying things and throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. You're strategic. And in the professional world, that translates to higher quality work, more well thought out ideas, a level of care that's rare. And that's something other people notice and respect. And let's talk about needing more downtime, finding social interactions draining. There's also a flip side to that. Your preference for meaningful, deeper connections over 100 shallow ones, that's a huge asset. Because I'm sure many of you have found in your own career, it's not just about who you know, it's about who knows you well. You can have a few strong relationships, and those can open incredible doors that no amount of small talk ever will. And people remember how you made them feel more than what you said. So in the long run, that ability to connect more deeply, to actually see other people, to be compassionate, to make them feel like they belong, they're heard, they're validated, that does wonders. And so when it comes to your network, it's the depth of connections, not necessarily the breadth that counts. And we're also in a time where burnout is more and more becoming the norm. Your understanding of the need to balance and recharge is something that many other people are actually starting to emulate and say, well, how do you do that? So here's the counterintuitive truth. In today's world where everything is loud and fast paced, your introverted, sensitive striver traits, your subtlety, your depth, your thoughtfulness, they don't just make you different, they make you stand out. You do not have to change yourself into some loud, outgoing personality to make your mark. And if self-promotion is an area you want to improve in and you want to do so in a way that you feel fits your personality, then again, make sure you have grabbed your spot for that free training I'm hosting today at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's called Stand Out Self-Promotion. And you're going to discover specific strategies for getting your work out there as a sensitive striver so you can get the recognition and the rewards you deserve. The QR code is in the corner of the screen here. I see many of you are already joining us. So glad to hear it. With the QR code, all you have to do is take out your phone, open your camera app, hover it over that code, and that will take you to the page to register. It's 100% free. The replay will be available. So there's really no reason not to join us. So I hope to see you there later today. Now, for this live, I wanted to share with you some initial strategies if you prefer a quieter approach to visibility that builds on the strengths you have as an introvert. Things like deep thinking, attentiveness, the ability to forge those strong one-on-one connections. So let's dive in. The first strategy I want to share with you is called the pass the baton strategy. Someone help me out by typing that in today, the pass the baton strategy. Introverts like you excel in situations when they have time to prepare. So in advance of a meeting, I want you to review the agenda and let the organizer know where you would like to contribute. That way, when the time comes around, the organizer can call on you. They can proverbially pass the baton to you at the right time. Many introverts find impromptu speaking, being put on the spot in meetings, very stressful. So by planning your contribution ahead of time, you bring down that stress level, the anxiety, and you make sure that you put yourself in a better position to communicate your ideas effectively. Plus, when the meeting organizer introduces you or passes the baton to you for a very specific topic, it more naturally positions you as an authority or an expert in that area. So that alone almost has a halo effect that enhances your visibility, the reputation and status that you have. It gives more weight to your contribution because you're not just trying to fight over everyone to find a place to contribute. So again, before the meeting, review the agenda to identify where you want to contribute. Prepare your thoughts on this topic, maybe even jotting down a few key points you want to make sure you make or stats you want to include. Reach out to the organizer before the meeting. And you can say something like, "Hi, organizer, I've reviewed the agenda for tomorrow's meeting and I have some thoughts on whatever the specific topic is. I'd like to contribute something during this part of the discussion. Could you please call on me when we get there?" Simple. Do not overthink this. Write a brief outline for what you want to say, again, so that you can stick to your key points. You can be concise without coming off as too scripted. And when the organizer calls on you, begin with a brief acknowledgement. You can say something like, "Thank you so much. I'm really excited for the opportunity to speak on XYZ," and then get into your points. So that's your first strategy for self-promotion as an introvert, which is the pass the baton strategy. And remember, as I'm going along, as I'm sharing these specific strategies with you, please type in the chat, what is resonating with you? What have your experiences been? What are you going to try? Perhaps even more importantly. Strategy number 2, speak up early. Help me out by typing that in the chat. Speak up early. Challenge yourself to speak up in the first half of a meeting. As an introvert, the idea of being the first person to speak can be really daunting. But if you aim to be the second, the third person, you give yourself enough time to feel comfortable with the meeting's rhythm without the pressure of having to initiate and really frame up the conversation. But the longer you wait, the more your fear will build and build and build, and the more likely you will find that all of the good ideas are on the table, or that people have already checked out. They're already checking their email. The energy is gone from the room, which will make you more reluctant to share because you'll be able to pick up on that and think, well, probably doesn't make sense to say anything now. So this approach of challenging yourself to speak up in the first half allows you to build upon what others have said, to showcase your ability to listen, to process, and from there add value to the discussion. And that's a way of contributing that tends to feel more natural for us as introverts. I want to be clear here that you do not have to offer some groundbreaking idea that no one has ever heard before and completely blows people away. How many of you are guilty of that type of perfectionism, where you hold yourself back from saying anything until you feel like, well, I need something original or special to say? I want you to let that go. Instead, build on comments from your colleagues by adding your own perspective. You might ask a insightful question that opens up a direction no one had considered yet. You may reflect on previous meetings or discussions you've had and tie that to the current topic. You may suggest a resource. And once you break the ice, once you do speak up, I guarantee you will feel more relaxed. You will prove to yourself that you can act despite a feeling of fear, and that creates a sense of confidence in yourself. Also, pay attention to the people who speak before you. Don't just listen for the content that they're saying, but for opportunities where any ideas you have prepared could more naturally fit into the conversation. So if someone says something that is aligned with what you wanted to share, that could be a great opportunity to add your voice. So you could say something like, building on what Jim just mentioned, and insert your thoughts, or I agree with Cassandra and I would like to add blah, blah, blah. Or that's an interesting point. It also makes me think about XYZ. After you've spoken, allow yourself a moment to relax, to feel positive about having just challenged yourself and actually contributed. This will make it a lot easier to do that again, either later in the meeting or in the future. And again, this is really fundamentally not just about self-promotion, but building up a feeling of confidence in yourself. All right, so our first two strategies, let's just review those quickly. We have the pass the baton strategy, and then we have speak up early. Let me just check in here in the chat. Amber said, I asked my boss to start doing that. I think she meant asking her boss to share an agenda and figuring out where she could contribute. And so far, it's working out great, letting me know in advance where there is something I may want to contribute on. Like asking me my development goals with no warning just left me with a blank brain and no warning, 100%. Yes. Excellent. Okay, perfect. So let's get into our third strategy. And actually, before we do, because I know we have some folks who have probably joined us since I first started and mentioned this today, later on today, this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, I am hosting a free webinar called Stand Out Self-Promotion. So if one of your goals is to feel more confident, is to be able to talk about your accomplishments at work and the results you're getting with greater ease, then you want to make sure you join us. QR code is here in the corner of the screen. Just take out your phone, go to the camera app, hover it over. You'll be taken right to the link, or the URL is also on the screen here. All right, our third strategy for self-promoting as an introvert is to ditch self-depreciation. Someone write that in the chat. Ditch self-depreciation. This is crucial for introverts because it directly addresses one of our most common challenges, which is the tendency to undervalue ourselves and our ideas. So we want you to start noticing where you do this and to adjust your language. I want you to start replacing phrases like, well, I might be wrong with, here's an idea, or I believe this approach could be effective. This is a small change, but it can really impact how your input is perceived. And again, more importantly, how you feel about it. So avoid qualifiers like, well, I'm no expert, but even if you feel inexperienced, frame your contributions as from my perspective or based on my understanding. So this shows that you value your insights while still remaining open to what other people have to share. And accept compliments gracefully. How often do someone says, oh, great job, I really love that presentation, and you say, oh, I just threw that together, that was nothing. You immediately throw yourself under the bus or you immediately undermine your own work. Again, this may seem minor, but it can make a huge difference in your confidence when you accept compliments gracefully. So practice responding to praise in a straightforward way. Say, thank you. I'm so glad you appreciated that, or I'm so glad you noticed, rather than deflecting it. Accepting compliments gracefully reinforces your sense of self-worth and the value of what you have to offer. All right, our final strategy for today is to shine in follow-up. Shine in follow-up. So you can stand out by circling back. Introverts tend to excel in reflection and deep thinking. Again, this allows us to process information, to contribute ideas in more of a time frame that fits our natural tendency. So how many of you have ever been in a meeting and you're kicking yourself because you think, well, I have nothing smart to share, or I have this accomplishment I want to speak up about, but I don't want to look conceited. And the meeting ends and you're angry at yourself. Or the next day you're driving your kids to school or you're in the shower and you think, oh, I should have said that. How many times has that happened to you? Give me a +1 in the chat. Well, this is where shining in follow-up comes in. There's nothing wrong with circling back afterwards. By following up with insights or suggestions, you can show you are a strategic thinker. You are actually committed to the issue, the challenge, the project, because most people just move on after a meeting ends. They rarely take the time to circle back with additional thoughts, and that can make you stand out as both thoughtful and thorough. Yeah, I see a lot of you resonating with that. So after a meeting or a conversation, take some time to mull it over. Consider any points that stood out to you or areas where you think you could add more value. So for example, you might follow up and say, I thought about what we discussed, and after digesting it, X came to mind as a possible next step. Even if it's a day or two later, most people will appreciate it. And again, while it's okay to take a day or two to do this, you don't want to wait too long. You don't want to follow up 2 weeks later because the person you're following up with may have time connecting what you're sharing to what had happened in that moment. Just too much time has passed. So a timely response ensures that what you're sharing or what you're following up on is still fresh in everybody's minds. And whenever possible, include some specific action steps, a resource, a insightful suggestion. So there you have it. Those are our strategies for self-promotion as an introvert. Let's review those again. Number 1 is to pass the baton. Use the pass the baton strategy. Review the agenda in advance, figure out where you can contribute, let the organizer know so they can pass the baton over to you when the time is right. Number 2, speak up early. Challenge yourself to speak up in the first half of the meeting before your fear builds, before all of the good ideas are out on the table. Number 3, ditch self-depreciation. So all of those qualifiers and underminers, I'm no expert, this is nothing, this might be a bad idea, but ditch them. Be much more direct and confident in the way you present your ideas. And number 4 is to shine in follow-up. If an idea comes to you afterwards or you didn't have a chance to find a way that you could speak up, follow up afterwards. Send someone an email or catch them in the hallway, what have you. So type in the chat what resonated the most. What resonated the most with you? Aubrey said, owning your work will help you accept compliments more gracefully. Couldn't agree more, Aubrey. I love that. Now, if you enjoyed today's live, remember to sign up for that free training, Stand Out Self-Promotion, that I am hosting today, later on today. It is a 60-minute free live training to help you change your mindset around self-promotion and to give you even more tactics to speak up, to share your accomplishments authentically without alienating the people around you or sounding like a jerk. The QR code is here on the screen in the upper corner. So make sure, I see we have many, many of you joining us today. Let's see. Luca was saying number 2 and 4 are on my to-do list for 2024. So number 2 is speaking up early and number 4 is shining in follow-up. Love to hear it, Luca. You know, I always like to say insight without action is useless. So I love hearing from you around what commitments you're going to make following this session today. And hopefully I will see you this afternoon at today's Stand Out Self-Promotion. It is not too late to sign up, but we only have a few hours left till we go live with that. So make sure you hit that QR code here on the screen or type in the URL on the screen to register, melodywilding.com/stand-out. All right, everyone, that is all for today. I will see you very soon. Take care of yourselves.